So yesterday, what we started looking at was equations. Specifically, we looked at this y equals mx plus b equation. Oh yeah, sorry about that. We know the y and the x are the coordinates on your graphs. We also know that the m is the slope, the rise over the run. And we know that the b is what we call the y-intercept. And as a really quick reminder, that y-intercept is basically when you have a graph, right? And this line going up and down, that's my y-axis. If I have a line that's going through like that, this point would be my y-intercept. I would say that, maybe it's 5. 5 is my y-intercept. I don't say it's 0 and 5 because by being here, it's already at a 0 on the x. So it's literally just a single 5, and that's it. So that's what we had kind of spent our time on. So we learned how to find equations using data, using graphs, and then we had learned how to substitute values for them to find everything else. Basically, if you have 3 values, you can always find the 4th, right? That was the general goal of yesterday. So we're going to finish this up today. Let me just, what page am I on? I'm on page 43. We had finished off on, I think, up until page 40. Was it page 47? Was that what it was?
Well, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we'd finished up until page 47. So we want you guys just to scroll on down there. So we're just going to quickly finish up this topic here. Today will be a lot less notes. It's going to be a lot more time to practice this stuff. Make sure we have these skills cemented before we keep going. So most of the week has been lots of notes, right? That's not the goal of today. Today, the goal is we're going to actually be applying some of this stuff. You'll have time to work on, there'll be 2 assignments specifically through unit 1. And normally they'll get 1. So I'm just on page 47 here. So I'm just going to get up and running here. So we're going to try out this example here, which basically, if we have someone who wants to add a long distance phone plan to their cell phone plan, this person's comparing 2 different options, right? So we got option 1, we got option 2. Option 1 is they're charging $0.25 a minute. Option 2 is charging a flat fee of $5 a month and then a fee of 10 cents a minute. So basically, what we want to do is we want to write equations that are going to represent these 2 things. So we want to make an equation that doesn't matter how many minutes you call, whether it's 0, whether it's 1,000,000 minutes, we can put that into our calculation. We can get how much is that going to cost. So that's our goal here. So we're going to try that out here. And just like always, so I'm just going to do option 1. I'm going to do option 2. Really keep ourselves organized. So most of the time, you can kind of just think about it and logically. We can usually think about it a little bit logically in that, well, when I say an equation here, I'm just thinking about like, how would it be? How could I calculate how much I'm paying at 25 cents a minute? So I could use that y equals mx plus b, but let's break it down to plain English for now. Well, can't I just take 25 cents and times that by the number of minutes? Right? Just in plain English, that's what I'm doing, right? If I say, hey, you've been on the phone for 80 minutes this month, well, I just take 80, I times it by 25 cents. Now, alternatively, for option 2, here's what I know. I know that I have a flat fee of $5 a month, and then I have a fee of 10 cents a minute. Well, I'm just going to put that in, right? It's $5. It does not matter whether I use my phone a million minutes or 0 minutes, no matter what, it's going to charge me $5, right? But I also now have to pay 10 cents per, which means multiply. Oops. Number of minutes. So again, all I've done is I've broken this into plain English. Now, if I wanted, I could put this into that. I could put this into y equals mx plus b form. I could put it like that if I want. Let me just put that right here so it's out of the way. If I was to do that, and it's not required for this question, actually, that would be something like. So first off, what's my slope for like question 1 here? If you're thinking about it, that's the slope is how the rate it's going up over time, right? It'd be the 25 cents, right? The more I talk, the more I pay. So that makes sense that would be the slope, right? So my slope in this case would probably be 0.25. And then x, not multiply, but that's x. And then is there anything I'm adding to that? No, that's it. It's literally just 0.25x. Now, there could be a plus 0 there, but we're mathematicians. We're kind of lazy. There's a little invisible 1 there that we could put if we wanted, but again, we're lazy. Ooh. Whereas for equation 2, well, what's my slope here? How much does it change by over time? $5. Well, so the slope itself is 10 cents. And I could just put 0.1x. You could put 0.10x, same thing. But now I'm also, does not matter what I'm doing. Now I'm adding on $5. So y equals 0.1 is my m, x plus 5 is my b. So again, it's taking stuff like that. You're able to turn that into equations, which we've now done. Check. So the next question here is asking us, well, what if he uses the phone for 50 minutes a long distance a month? Which one's going to be cheaper? This is a realistic problem that we sometimes have to kind of go over, right? I know I have to do that with my data. I know that, I use a certain amount of data. I need a plan that meets that. So let's try that out. We're going to try question B now. And just like before, I'm just going to organize it, right? Keep yourself organized. Option 1, I have my formula. I know how many minutes it is, so I'm just going to take my formula. $0.25 times the number of minutes, which is 50. Calculator does all the hard work for me. That's going to give me $12.50. Whereas for option 2, again, I know my formula. I know I'm paying $5 plus I'm adding on 10 cents for every minute, which is 50 of them. So overall, that's going to give me a total of $10. So obviously, in this case, this person should probably use option 2. It's cheaper. Why wouldn't you want it to be cheaper? And finally, question C. I won't scroll up because I know some people are writing, but question C is asking us, well, how many minutes of long distance would Charlie need to use for both plans to be the same price? But basically, what's the break even point, right? Like what's that magic threshold? So my question for you is, how can I figure this out? How can I figure out? So I could try and brute force this. Well, what if this is 40 minutes? What if this is 30? What if this is 20? But so
Couldn't
here,
you just subtract option 2 from option 1 and then divide the remainder by the 0.25?
if I do that, $2.50 divided by 0.25, or divided by 10 cents, I think you said 0.1.
No, divide it by the 0.25 and that'd show you how many minutes are left.
So if I divide that by 0.25, that's going to give me 1,000 minutes. So potentially, again, we're experimenting, right?
Well, no, because it would be 2.5 divided by 0.25.
Oh, 2.5 divided by, okay. So 2.5, 2.5 divided by, you said 0.25. Oh, so 10. So potentially, so I'll kind of put that up there and we'll take a look at that. Again, like that's the part of the whole process here, right? Is we're just kind of experimenting with stuff. So let's find out. So this is going to secretly be a little bit of an algebra question. So remember, when I have a formula, so if we're looking at option 1, for example, if I say that, hey, if the cost is equal to 25 cents times the number of minutes, and then for option 2, it's just, it's the same thing. Option 2, the cost is equal to 10 cents times the number of minutes plus that $5. Well, then technically, that's not what I meant to do. These two things are equal to each other, right? Because I'm saying that, hey, these are the same thing. Like the cost is the cost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to make them equal to each other. So I'm literally going to do 0.25. Now I'm going to put, instead of writing number of minutes, that gets exhausting, right? I'm going to use something we call a variable. It's a letter. I'm going to say M. Usually you see X. You could use X if you want, but I'm saying M for the number of minutes. So that's what option 1 is. And I'm saying, hey, I want to know how many minutes it is when I want to know when these two plans are equal to each other. So I'm just going to take the other equation, the $0.10 or 0.1 minutes plus 5. So this is an algebra question. This is our first time where normally when we have an algebra question, we've just had only one of these, right? Now in this case, we have 2. So this is technically an algebra problem. And so what we need to do here is we call it isolate. Technically it's called like the coefficient. This is the fancy way of saying the algebra. I need to get M by itself on a side. That's what needs to happen here. I just so happen to have 2 of them. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move one of these from one side to the other. I'm going to get these both on one side. Now I'm going to choose to bring this one over here like that. So just like before, I'm going to do the opposite of something, right? Right now, $0.1 a minute is being added on to 5. So I'm going to do the opposite, which is taking it away to both sides. So what happens here? Well, these ones get canceled out. And so now what I'm going to be left with is, well, 0.25 m's, take away 0.1 m's, I'm going to have 0.15 m's. Usually, in my experience, the thing that tends to confuse people here is the decimals. But think about it this way. If I have 5 pizzas, 5p, I eat 3 of the pizzas, 3p. How many pizzas do I have left? I have two pizzas, right? It's the same concept. It's just harder numbers. Decimals tends to throw a little bit of a curveball for us, but we do it the exact same way. So 0.15 m is equal to, what do I have left on my right side? Just a 5, right? And I could put like plus 5 here, but we know there's a little invisible plus sign there. It's a positive 5. But remember, my goal is I want to know what the minutes is equal to. I want to know what the minutes are equal to, not what 0.15 of the minutes are equal to. So remember, my goal is I just want this m by itself. There's now something attached to it, which is the 0.15, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to do the opposite. This is 0.15 times m, right? So the opposite of times in it is dividing it. And it's the same number, 0.15. And again, if you're looking at this, like, what the heck is he talking about? Again, algebra is going to be a slow thing we slowly acquire. I'm not expecting you guys to just, boom, get it. We're accelerating our learning. That's one of the challenges with the ABE program is this is a skill that's learned usually over like a year or two in high school. We kind of just have to like go through it. So we'll slowly acquire it. But so now if I'm doing that, I'll actually write out the steps here. If you know what you're doing, you could really kind of skip it at this point. But in this case, what we're really going to have, what's actually happened here is this is 0.15 m divided by 0.15 is equal to 5 over 0.15. This is the little thing that's happening. Some people skip this step, which is totally fine. If you really know what you're doing, you could skip this. But all I'm doing is I'm writing out exactly what's happening here. Again, the decimals throw things off, but think about it this way. What's 5 divided by 5? 1. What's 1,000 divided by 1,000? 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. It cancels out. So what's going to happen to these two things? The 0.15 m, the 0.15? Gone. What am I left with? Just m, which is my whole goal to begin with. M is equal to 5 divided by 0.15. Calculator can do that heavy work for me. 5 over 0.15. So ultimately it's going to be 133.33 minutes. Let's just say 100, you're only charged by the minute, 133 minutes, right? Oh, I'm just going to type it in. I'm just going to type that in instead. I was doing a message. So M is equal to 133 minutes. Oh, did I do something up there? 5 divided by, I think I goofed something up. Sorry, 33 minutes. It's 33 minutes. I don't know why it added the extra one there. I was going to say that doesn't make sense. So 33 minutes. So after 33 minutes, that's my break even point. That's when it costs the same in between. So this is technically an algebra question. It's my final one. I'm going to circle it. This is technically an algebra type of question here to be able to do. So we're manipulating equations. So yesterday we learned the parts of the equation, the y and the b, how to draw graphs with that, how to interpret graphs with that. Now we're learning how to actually use those equations. So if you guys have that in, what I'm going to give you a chance to do here is I'm going to get you guys to try out question 13 for about like, I'm going to say like 5 or 6 minutes here. Probably 5 minutes because you don't have to draw a graph in this case. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes here. Try out question 13. I'll slowly go over it, but I want you guys to try it by yourself for at least a minute. And I'll start giving some hints and stuff. You might have to look back in your notes. You're going to have to think about it for a little bit. It's not going to be easy, and that's fine. Again, just kind of as a little bit of an example here, if she earns $750 a month plus a 4% commission on her total sales, right? The more you sell, the more you earn. Technically, this is going to be we know that she's going to earn so 4% on this, which has a decimal 0.04 times 10,000 times 10,000. Yep. Plus the 750. Oops. Zoom in a little bit here. Make that easier to see. So in total, you punch that in your calculator, that's going to give you 0.04 times 10,000 plus 750. 1,150. Your calculator does that bed mass stuff for you as long as you put it in right. So 1,150. And then you just do the same thing. Ooh. So now the challenge for you is try and write an equation about that. So I'll give you guys now about 30 seconds to try that one out. Okay. And so I'm just going down to question B here, which is we want to write an equation here, right? So let's think about this. Normally, yesterday, we were used to being told, hey, this is your slope, this is your y-intercept. Put it in an equation, right? So now we were told, hey, it's y equals mx plus b. We were told, hey, here's what m is, here's what b is. So let's think about this, right? M is our slope. M is like, so the slope is going to be how it changes over time. Now, my question for you is, the only two things here that happen are her base salary plus her commission. Which of these can potentially change? The commission. So the commission is probably going to be our slope, right? Specifically, it looks like it goes up. 4% for every, what was it? Oh, for every $10,000, right? Well, for every dollar, technically, but that seems to be it. Now you might be wondering, how come I didn't put 10,000 there? Because it goes 4% for every dollar. 4%. You think about that. Percent. That's how you spell it, right? Well, this is penny, right? I'm saying 4 of these. That's where that word comes from. So it's not 0.04 over 10,000. It's just she happened to have $10,000 of sales. It's 4 cents for every dollar she sells, right? That's what that actually is. And then what do I add? It's always going to be plus 750, which is going to be that's going to be my y-intercept. So I need that. This is not my equation. That's just my two things here. So I'm just going to quickly substitute those in here. My y is equal to my m, which is 0.04. There is that little invisible one there, but we're lazy mathematicians, so we don't really use it. 0.04x plus b, which is 750. So that's technically going to be my equation, right? Oh, see, the most common error I see here, though, is that people put the 10,000 here, and that is not the case. You're making 4 cents for every dollar you sell. You could also have your slope is like this, 4 over 100. That makes sense too, right? All you've done is you move the decimal places. So either of those would work. So question C is asking, well, okay, what if she sold $100,000? She had a really big month, 100 grand. In reality, that's like 2 cars nowadays, but how could I figure that out? Oh, you mean 100,000? So how come you're saying it's the X and not the Y? How come you're saying the X and not the Y? So you are right. So first off, we're kind of thinking about this. The Y is her total earnings, right? We're looking at this. Well, her total earnings is our Y, and her sales is our X. If we're really thinking about this, all I'm doing is I'm changing this part here for each sale. So you are right. All I'm going to do is I'm going to, just like before, what's my formula? Y equals 0.04x plus 750. All I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute that in. So it's 0.04 times 100,000 plus 750. So you're right. It is the X and not the Y. Because if we're kind of thinking about this logically, well, Y is just saying how much money she's made. And the X is how much stuff she's sold. So I'm just literally just going to put it in exactly how I see it. 0.04 times 100,000 plus 750. Calculator can do all the heavy work for you. She's going to make $4,750. Okay, and then we got two more things here. So basically, they're wondering, hey, if we changed her basic salary from 750 to 600 a month, but her commission raised to 5%, would she make more or less on this 100 grand in sales? So what are we doing? We're now comparing, well, what if I change the formula a little bit? This is just like the phone question, just with some different numbers here, right? So now what do I have? I have two different options. I have her money earned is equal to her. It's equal to her commission, right? So I'm going to write it in plain English. You don't need to write this down, but I'm going to write it in plain English. It's her commission times the dollar sold, right? How much stuff she sells, plus her salary. Technically, that's what it is, right? You do not need to write that down. You're welcome to if you want, but I'm just using it as a reference point here. This is technically what her thing is, right? English, math. A lot of math is just converting this part into this part. That's what's happened here. So let's do that. We now have two different potential salary options, right? So we have option one, her money earned, which we've said is Y, right? Is equal to her commission. So we have her original rate here, right? The 0.04 X plus 750. Nothing has changed there. That's just my formulas. But option two, what's different? Instead of earning a 4% commission, it's being raised to 5%. And then instead of making a guaranteed 750 a month, they're lowering it to 600. So those are the two differences here. So I'll give you a second. Now, your first guess might be, okay, well, I'm going to do exactly what that last one we did up above was. I'm going to make this equal this, and then I'm going to try and solve for X. But that's not what it's asking us to do. It's just asking us which one of these makes more, right? So all I need to now do is change X for that 100 grand, right? And then it's going to tell me which one of these is she going to want if she thinks she can make 100 grand. So all I'm now doing is I'm substituting it, right? 0.04. Instead of X, I've already said that's $100,000 plus the 750. I'm gonna do the same thing for the other one, right? Just with that new formula we just made. And all I got to do is see which one of these spits out a bigger number. So I'm just going to do that calculation on this other side here. Well, I don't need to do the top one. We already have the top one. This is that 750. We did that math on the question above. So all I got to do is this bottom one here, right? And again, using our calculator, we can just spit it in exactly how we see it. 0.05 times 100,000 plus 600. And I can see that what she's going to make, she's going to make big $600. So which one should she take? Option one or option two? Option two, right? So she's going to take option two. But that's not really what the question's asking us, right? You've done the math, you have done all the hard work. Skill that's really good to learn. Reread the question. How does it want us to state it? It wants us to know is she going to make more or less on the $100,000 in sales? Which one of these two and by how much? So she would make more on option two. Specifically, she would make how much more? 850 bucks. So now I've answered the question to its completion. So again, you did all the hard work, but it's really important. Reread the question. What is it actually asking you to show? So I'm going to let you toy around with question E for another minute here if you haven't yet. This is the hard one. This is the algebra one. So I'm going to let you guys just try it out for a minute. If you don't want to do it on your book, take out a separate piece of like scrap paper or something, right? If you're ever unsure, you can always do that. If you're really focused on, I don't want my notes to look messy. So again, it's a little bit of a clue here. If you're not sure, try looking at the question we did at the bottom, question 12 here. Try looking at what we did to our two options on question C from up above. It's not meant to be an easy question. I'll give you another minute. So giving you a little bit of a hint here. What did we do to kind of start this out with the last one? Well, what we ended up doing was, if I want to figure out at what her sales would have to be, or her to earn the same amount under each pay rate. So ultimately, what we really care about here is how when she has the same amount earned. What's the amount earned here? It's ours. It's our Y's. So I'm going to make these two things equal to each other, right? 0.04x plus 750 is equal to 0.05x plus 600. So we haven't gotten there yet. That's your first step here. Because my goal here is I want to know at what point does this left side equal our right side? Because I ultimately want it to be like, hey, I'm trying to find x. X is the amount, right? So I want it to be x is equal to something, and there's a bunch of steps in between. So I'll give you a little bit more. So the next thing I did was I tried to get x to one side, right? Now with the one up above, I moved this one over here. Now what's going to be a problem with that? It's going to be a negative 0.01x, which you could do, but again, a lot of people usually freak a little bit out when you get decimals. I could also go the other way. I'm going to do that. I want to try to avoid a negative here if I can. Again, it's going to give you the same answer either way, but a lot of people are like, oh, negatives. So I'm going to try and get x by itself on the right side. So what do I need to do? I need to, just like before, I need to move the coefficient. That's the fancy word for algebra. I'll zoom out in a second to one side. That's the focus here. I need to move that 0.04x or the 0.05x. I'm going to choose to move the 0.04 because I don't want to deal with a negative. So what do I need to do? It's being added on to 750. So I need to subtract. And it's 0.04x. I need to do it to both sides. I don't have space to write that over here, so I'm not going to. But what's going to happen? It's going to cancel out, right? And now on the left side, I'm going to be left with just 750, right? $750 is equal to, let's move this here. Let's do this. Here we go. Now I can do that. Is equal to, so what's 0.05x minus 0.04x? Yeah, now you could do this. Now I'm just going to combine, I'm just going to skip this step. I'm just going to do this right now. 0.01x, right? So that's what's changed here. Is that's 5, what turned to a 1 because it got subtracted by that. So now what do I have to do? Well, remember my goal is I want to get x on one side. It doesn't matter what side it's on. In fact, in this case, it's on the other side. So what do I need to get rid of to do that? I got to get rid of the 600 first. I got to get rid of the 0.01 and the 600, but I got to get rid of the 600 first. We work away from it. We work towards it. So it's minus 600 both sides. $750 minus 600. Again, I'm skipping that step. It's just 150, right? You could put that in there if you want. You don't have to. And then what happens over here? Those get canceled out. I'm just left with 0.01x. And so now what do I have to do? I have to get rid of this 0.01, right? Because then I've done it. Then I have x by itself. So what's the opposite thing that's going to happen? I need to divide because right now this is 0.01 times x. So I need to divide by 0.01. And again, for the sake of space, I'm just going to punch that in my calculator and just spit out the answer. Now, a lot of people look at this and when you're dividing by something smaller than 1, what's going to happen to the number? It's going to get bigger, right? If I take 150, I divide it by 0.01. Oops. The number got bigger, which is fine. Because I just want to know how many of these 0.01s can I fit in there? Well, you can fit 0.01, 0.02, 0.01, literally counting up to that. So in total, it's going to be 15,000 is my x. But again, we're still in math. What does that mean in plain English? It means that she would have to sell $15,000 worth of stuff for her to earn the same amount. That's what that's saying, is she would need to earn $15,000 for her to earn the same amount. Converting that math to English. And again, if you're still a little bit confused by that, that's fine, okay? The algebra is difficult. It's usually a multi-year process. We get you for 2 months, technically 4 if you took the other one with me. It'll be a skill you will slowly acquire over time. And even then, if you really don't, you don't need it. It just helps. So that's it for the notes. Like I said, today was not going to be a note heavy day. I'm just going to zoom out a second. So what we are going to do, there's kind of 3 priorities here. Give me 1 moment. What page are we on? We're on 49. So we got 3 priorities here. One is I'm going to want you guys to try out these questions. There's very much not like they're not graphic questions. These are algebra questions. They are meant to be difficult. It will be a really helpful skill if you're able to get this down. So you're going to try that. The next thing you're going to try is this Desmos assignment, which I'll bring that up in a second. I will show you how to use that. We'll talk about that briefly. So we'll put a pin on that. And the third thing is I do what's called exam style questions for every single topic. Now, for those of you online, you would have purple sheets that are going to have that. For those of you who are in person, I will hand that out in just a second. But I'm going to show you what that looks like. If you're still writing this stuff down, I'll come back to it in a moment. But here's what that stuff's going to look like. Exam style questions. Where is it? Oh, that's because I'm in the wrong one. Sorry, loading it up. Here we go. So these things here. So first off, I told you before, these dates are all wrong. Those are going to be due. We're going to say the 30th, January 30th, 2024, obviously. So what I like to do is I take a bunch of different things to kind of help prepare you for for essentially the final exam. A lot of these come from old departmental exams, to be completely honest with you. So by doing this is open book. You get to use your stuff. You get to do it right after we learn the stuff that's able to help you out. Now you're going to notice in here, what the heck are these things? We haven't learned it yet. We'll get to that. I like giving it to you guys about halfway through, because that way you can focus on the first half. And then as we learn the second half, you can immediately start solving the stuff. So by doing this, it is an assignment. Yes, you are technically studying by doing so. So that's one thing. Unit 1 does have 2 assignments. This is one of them. The other one was this. This is the Desmos assignment, technically. This thing here. So everyone should have a copy of this. Again, purple sheet. So what this is we're going to a certain website here, desmos.com. Specifically, we are going for the, you know what, I'm just going to say, just Google Desmos. Just Google Desmos and go to the graphing calculator. So we're just going to that graph calculator there. So all this wants us to do, So all this is going to want us to do is we're basically trying to use this y equals mx and this y equals mx plus b, and we're just kind of messing around with it. So for example, you know, y equals let's say if I give you 3x plus 2, the yellow one there, but if I also give you, let's say y equals 0.5 x plus 2, what's the difference here? I've only changed this, right, the slope. But what happens when I make the slope smaller? Well, it has a lower slant, right? So it's just, you're playing around with it and just kind of making observations like that. And again, I'm kind of happy to help you out with it. Question 2 is just asking, I want you to try and find any graph, any possible equation that's going to have something that goes through 0, 0. It doesn't matter how steep it is, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, whether it's flat, whether it just goes up and down. I'm just trying to get you guys to play around with it. I think it's really important. Playing around with this stuff is a helpful way to learn how each of these parts can be helpful. So So these are both due on January 30th. So you do have 2 assignments. I try not to do that, but for this one, that is happening. So I recommend you guys try out these practice questions. The algebra is important. Then try out that Desmos one and try out these exam styles. You will get time built into the class to be able to complete these things. So that's the next process that we're going to be going through here. So I'll kind of be monitoring. If anyone has any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to help out. But I'll let you guys go. Now, for those of you here in person, I will hand that stuff out as well. So again, those of you online, if you, for your assignments there, you got 2 of them for this one. All you have to do is you can take a picture of it and you can upload it onto the LMS that way. You can scan it or you can do it digitally, whatever works for you. But if you take a picture or scan, just please check it, make sure it's nice and neat. The other thing is that we do not have school on Monday. All the Carleton Trail staff have a meeting that day. There will not be school that day. If you show up here, I will not be here. So take the day for yourself. Sorry, and third final announcement is we're probably going to end up having a concept check on this stuff, either on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. I'll give you a final answer on that one tomorrow. I'm leaning more towards the Wednesday though, but it's going to happen one of those 2 days. Probably the 31st.